Alright, so one thing that the PlayStation does very well that I don't think that they really get enough credit for are open world games. Not only do they have top tier third party games, which we're going to talk about a little later on today, but they also have several exclusives in their lineup of games with sprawling and just absolutely immersive worlds. And the PlayStation 5 itself, it takes full advantage of these type of games like we've never really seen in past generations of consoles. That means high detail, high resolution, and a buttery smooth frame rate to go alongside that addictive gameplay. As always though, what I like to do on this channel is I like to help people find great games. So what I want to do today is count down the top 15 best open world games that you can play right now on your PlayStation 5. Now, what I tried to do with this list though is to compile mostly newer games that runs and looks great on the PlayStation 5, whether that be through enhanced visuals or just an experience that holds up in terms of sheer quality. So do gotta keep that in mind, but I mean, with all that said, without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So to start off this list, on a very rare choice here, I went with a free-to-play game being Genshin Impact. I don't usually include free-to-play games in these type of lists, but when it comes to Genshin Impact, I made a small exception here. If anything, don't let the free-to-play mantra fool you because it's a surprisingly high-quality game with a rich amount of content. Now, it does, however, have some gacha mechanics to it, but it is a game that you can download and enjoy right away. It is often compared to Zelda Breath of the Wild as its visuals and world look, well, strikingly similar, but at the same time, it's also carved out its own identity thanks to its action RPG combat and narrative-focused story. And even though this game did originally launch on a PlayStation 4 thanks to its new PlayStation 5 update, it now runs like a dream at 4K 60 frames per second. If anything, I mean, Genshin Impact is free, so you might as well just go ahead and give it a try. Now next up here I have Dying Light 2 for you zombie fanatics out there, and while it's true there's already a lot of zombie games on the market, no doubt about that, but Dying Light 2 offers an enticing blend of a massive apocalyptic world, gruesome melee combat, and it also has a parkour system that gives you just a little bit more freedom in its traversal. Most importantly though, it's a lot of fun. The thing about this game, however, is that while yes, it is yet another zombie game, the thing is it does put an intelligent twist on the genre by not only making zombies and humans enemies, but the absence of light itself changes how the game is played as you yourself are infected by the zombie virus. In order to remain human, you cannot be without UV light for long periods of time, so there is this strategy in racing against the light as you fight off zombies and try to complete your various goals. Now, here's a game that I feel is very much overlooked, being Immortals Phoenix Rising, but let's just go ahead and change that today. You know, right away, it's made very clear that some of its inspiration came from Zelda Breath of the Wild's gameplay. Yeah, another Zelda-inspired game. In Immortals, though, there are several similarities between the two, including its gliding, its climbing, the mounted traversal, and even how the world is laid out with its various dungeons. However, I do think that it does all these things very well, and it's just going to be clear about Immortals. This isn't just some simple clone and nothing more. While yes, it does take some of those great aspects from Breath of the Wild, but at the same time, it still does manage to be its own thing. Its story is based on Greek mythology, and it's actually quite humorous as you talk to its various historical figures. Both its story and gameplay are just a joy to play through, and there's always something new that catches your eye in the distance, whether that be an enemy, a puzzle, or a dungeon. You're always rewarded for your curiosity and efforts. Okay, so here's a game that just kind of keeps on ticking, and that's Grand Theft Auto 5. While this game, yes, did originally release back in 2013, we're still kind of waiting for GTA 6, but however, this is still among the pinnacle of open-world games and has, well, since got a PlayStation 5 upgrade that brings it up to modern standards, which includes higher resolution, 60 frames per second, ray tracing, better shadows, and just overall improved image quality. So while GTA 5 has always been good with a ton of things to do, I mean, it's got a rich story, and it's just an overall fun sandbox experience, now it can just be even more enjoyable with that definitive experience on next generation platforms. Whether you've never played this game before, or even if you have, the PlayStation 5 version is worth visiting once again. Now, I don't think a list like this would be quite complete without Assassin's Creed. This is a staple to the genre after all, and really for good reason. Ubisoft has really nailed down that open world experience, and it shows in their most recent entry, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where you play as a Viking this time around. It does once again mix in that RPG-like gameplay, which I know not everybody necessarily likes, but it does give you that steady progression while you explore its just ginormous world. Valhalla, on average, does take players around 60 hours to complete just its main story alone, and there's still plenty to uncover beyond all that. Now, I also would like to point out that both Odyssey and Origins have been updated for the PlayStation 5 as well, and they do still look quite phenomenal to this day, so I am going to go ahead and also recommend those, and depending on the person, you might actually even enjoy these ones more. In fact, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has always been a setting that I really enjoy, being about Spartans. Okay, so this next one is a really interesting title in how much different it plays than any other game on this list, and that's Death Stranding Director's Cut. This is a game developed by the legend himself, the guy behind Metal Gear Solid, Hideo Kojima. But unleashed from Konami, he went all out on Death Stranding by taking in a completely different direction that surprised a lot of players out there. In many ways, you can kind of describe Death Stranding as a walking simulator where you play as a futuristic mailman in a hostile environment. Yeah, it does sound kind of strange on paper, and admittedly, is not gonna be for everybody. But I'll tell you what, its world can be one of the most atmospheric experiences out there. It's just so unique, and it really gives you a sense of solitude and just that lonely feeling of trekking through a disconnected world by yourself. As usual though, Hideo Kojima delivered on yet another interesting over-the-top story with some great cinematography. But yeah, if you're okay with a slower, less combative experience, then Death Stranding is a unique experience that you're not going to find elsewhere. Alright, so this next one here isn't quite as big as some of the other games on this list in terms of its world size, but the Yakuza and Judgment franchises are some of the most dense entries on this entire list, with lots of things to do in their small-scale cities. I'd also say that they're just some of the most atmospheric, being set in Japan, and wow, do these games absorb you into their world. It honestly sometimes feels like you're living in Japan when you play these games, but in Yakuza 1 through 6, as well as Judgment and Lost Judgment, these are all beat-em-up games with some light RPG elements to them. Now, Yakuza Like a Dragon instead, that one is a turn-based RPG, but outside of its gameplay change, all these games have some of the most gripping stories in video game history, with twists and turns around every single corner. I cannot applaud their stories enough. Now, as for the exploration itself, you can roam their small cities and do a number of different things, including dining at restaurants, run your own cabaret club, or even play old Sega arcade games. There's plenty to do alongside their flat-out amazing stories. Now, however, you might wonder which one to start out with, though. I mean, this is a long-running series and everything. And if you are new to the series, I would just kind of say start with Yakuza 0 or with Judgment. Those, in my opinion, are the two best starting points, though I will say that if you're specifically looking for a PlayStation 5 native experience, then go with Judgment. Fans for years have dreamed about a rich Harry Potter game that fully takes advantage of its universe, and well, now, here we are, we officially have that with Hogwarts Legacy. Now, admittedly, you're going to get more out of this game if you're a fan of the Harry Potter franchise, but if you are, Hogwarts Legacy nails the setting and its universe with both its magical world and actually its captivating story. Hogwarts Legacy really proves you don't necessarily need Harry Potter to build an interesting story within its universe. You instead follow a wizard or a witch in who you create, and then suddenly they find themselves amidst a mystery as they find themselves capable of a hidden and rare magic. The story is quite interesting to follow, and even though I do think the game starts a little slow and some of the UI is a little clunky, its world is filled with wonder as you spot familiar names, odd animals and creatures, and riding your broom sky high over its sprawling and, unironically, magical world. Okay, so Cyberpunk 2077 has been one of the more odd releases in game history. Of course, we all know about its launch issues. It probably shouldn't have released when it did, as it had various bugs and issues with its original outing, but now after several years, I think we've kind of gotten to the point I can now fully recommend this game, because despite its launch issues, this game was always good. I don't really think that that was ever really a problem with Cyberpunk 2077, and now that they fixed a lot of its original issues with various updates, and actually made the core game even better with new additions, I think now now is the time to jump in. Cyberpunk does have one of the more fascinating worlds because there's nothing really else quite like it in its futuristic setting, where you can attach cybernetics to your created character that gives them new abilities. It's an interesting take for an RPG open world, and it also has a rather engrossing story. Now, I do understand one of the main attractions is Johnny Silverhand, played by Keanu Reeves, but that's the thing here, because there's plenty of other characters that you'll find yourself truly caring about, and because you can impact the story with your own decision making, it really just absorbs you into the world just that much more. Truly though, I do think that Cyberpunk is a great game and definitely worth diving into by this point. Now here I not only have one of the best open world experiences that you can currently play, but also just one of the best games available on the PlayStation 5, being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and, well, his good buddy Miles Morales. If you pick up Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Edition, it does actually come included with both Spider-Man Remastered as well as the smaller scoped Miles Morales. Now I will say I do think that Spider-Man Remastered is the better of the two here, thanks to its more grand story, though Miles Morales does expand on its combat with some new abilities, and I think that it is a joy to play through. However, both of these games, without a doubt, are extremely fun. In fact, I think as open world games, there's not a better traversal system out there than swinging around as Spider-Man. It's so fast, so fun, so fluid, and it just never feels like a chore going from point A to point B. In fact, sometimes I kind of forget that this is even an open world game at all, and I mean that in the best possible way. To me, open world games are at their best when it feels like a tight, curated experience, and I think that's exactly how Spider-Man feels. It's New York City at its most fun, but thanks to its story and how it's all laid out, it all feels like a tight, concise playground. Now, here's another PlayStation first-party game. Like I said, they have a lot of really good open-world games, but yes, here I have Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. I mean, if you want an immersive world that truly draws you into a setting that you can't see elsewhere, that's what you're going to get with Ghost of Tsushima. In this game, you play as a samurai in a feudal Japan, and talk about breathtaking visuals. While this game was originally created for the PlayStation 4, with all of its different PlayStation 5 enhancements, it really showcases just how good it can look with stunning landscapes. But this isn't just a good-looking game. It's also a very fun game that gives players the choice in how they want to play. Do you want to be an honorable samurai and face your opponents head-on, or instead, do you want to be a little bit more tactile with a stealth-based approach? The choice is completely yours, though being a samurai, your allies might not necessarily agree with every single decision you make. Okay, so Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't actually release this generation, but this game is just far too good not to include on this list. I'm actually going to go so far as to say that I think that this game is a flat-out masterpiece. The attention to detail is absolutely insane when it comes to this game, and it's actually just one of the best animated games that I've ever seen, hands down. Everything is just so finely crafted, and even when it comes to the smaller things, whether you open a simple drawer, get in a vehicle, or just with whatever, even your character, his hair and beard will grow if you don't maintain it. This attention to detail might make the game, yes, a little slower paced at times, but once this game grabs you, it never lets go. You do play as a cowboy in an old-time gang, so you don't really play as a good person per se, but the story turns out to be amazing the further you get into it. The entire cast of characters are phenomenally well written and voice acted. It's one of the best stories really in just video games, period, and I was actually just blown away by the end of its lengthy 50-plus hour campaign. It really is honestly that good. Add to that, it also has one of the most well-realized worlds. There's a lot of things to do here. You can hunt, there's a ton of side quests, you can fish, rob banks, and the list just kind of goes on and on and on. I don't say this about many open-world games, but with Red Dead Redemption 2, it gives you the illusion of a linear crafted experience, because that's just how finely detailed it is, and I don't think that I can give it a better compliment than that. Alright, so here I have The Witcher 3 with its next generation upgrade for the PlayStation 5. I mean, this game quite literally is one of the best open world RPGs ever made, and on the PlayStation 5, it really just takes everything to the next level. In this game, you play as Geralt, which I guess you could kind of describe as a mercenary in a sense that he takes on different jobs of hunting down monsters and magical beings. There is more of this grand story here, though, that is very enticing, as he also tries to track down and save some different people that he loves. But one of the things that always stood out to me about this game in particular is its morally gray area. You do make your own decisions which impacts its own story, though there's not always necessarily a clear-cut good answer. Sometimes it's really just about choosing the lesser of two evils, and it makes you truly think about what kind of impact your decisions are going to make on the world. I really don't know if there's a game that feels better in terms of player choice, and that's a true testament to how good its story and characters are written. That's the thing here, though, because I kind of feel like some of the side quests in this game are actually just as good as other games' main story. I mean, everything's just so masterfully created within The Witcher 3, so even though this game, is a little older by this point, it is still a must-play, especially with its PlayStation 5 enhancements. Now, speaking of games that has both a really good main story and also side quests, I have to also talk about Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, Sony has always kind of excelled in storytelling. We all know this, and we can also say the same when it comes to Horizon Forbidden West, but to see them take that formula to a truly huge open-world game, a gorgeous one at that, and still nail that handcrafted experience, I think that speaks volumes to their skills. Horizon Forbidden West, though, is so much more than just a good story. It's a genuinely fun game with its RPG elements. Using your bow and arrows, traps, and even its melee combat, they feel satisfying. And then there's the setting. The world of Horizon, it really has to be one of the most memorable settings with its combination of a prehistoric world with futuristic cybernetics. It's a stunning combination to look at, and the way they mesh it together, it really draws you into its world. Now, I will say, though, I do think the story starts off a little slow, as Aloy, the protagonist, can be a little hard-headed early on, but stick with it, because once it gets going, I think Horizon Forbidden West is one of the most immersive and just one of the best story-driven open-world games that you can play. And at the #1 spot, and it really could not have been any other game here, the game that just absolutely blew me away, and that's none other than Elden Ring. I don't even know if I can describe just how much I enjoyed this game. I rarely do this, but I did 100% this game, and I put like 100 hours into Elden Ring in like a 2-week span. I never do things like that, but when it comes to Elden Ring, it's a special game in every single sense of the word. Because it's so well crafted and has such rewarding gameplay, it's really just hard to put this game down. In fact, when I finished this game, it was a weird feeling, but I felt a little saddened about it. And what I mean by that is that I still wanted to play more. It was almost upsetting to me that I had actually completed it, because I still truly wanted more of this game. I wanted more of this experience. Any game after this was really going to fail in comparison, but with that said, Elden Ring is a brutally challenging action RPG. So if you don't like having a challenge, that might be a problem here. However, Elden Ring does kind of remind me a little bit of an older 90s game, but thrown into modern times with more advanced gameplay. It's kind of like an alternate history in a sense that, what if games would have continued in that direction, where they don't hold your hands, where they reward you for investigating its world with secrets and really just challenge the player? I mean, you're going to find optional bosses in this game. You're going to find hidden but powerful weapons, and you can also uncover more and more layers of its story by piecing its world and items together. And then, to just kind of top everything off, you also have that addictive and challenging gameplay. I think one of the best parts about Elden Ring, though, I think is how much player choice is involved with this gameplay. There's a lot of different builds thanks to its many weapons and abilities that allows you, the player, to choose what type of combat best fits you. And that's going to be an important choice considering some of its very, very challenging bosses. Elden Ring, though, without a doubt, is not just a masterpiece, but I'm going to go so far as to say it's honestly one of the best games I've ever played. At the very least, it's one of my own personal favorite games that I've ever played. Anyways, that's it for this list, but hopefully this was a fun video for you all, and better yet, maybe you found a game worth playing yourself. Now, keep in mind that this list was only my opinion, so if you do feel different, maybe go ahead and give me some of your suggestions below. We can all kind of discover those games together as well. But yeah, If you enjoyed this video, do make sure to hit that bell notification and subscribe button below for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.